Hello, and welcome to the Hello You Show, where we talk about big dreams and taking real action. Through transformative stories, a bit of neuroscience, and real conversations, this show is here to help you explore creating your next level life with authenticity and passion. I'm Jessica Rice, a design techie and former engineering leader turned vision evolution coach on a mission to help other women rise up and lead a life of purpose. So get cozy and say hello again to the real you. Hello, and welcome back to the Hello You Show. My name is Jessica Rice, and I am your host today. And we are joined by an incredible guest who has so much wisdom to share with us today. You are going to be amazed and just filled with so much inspiration in relation to your work, your femininity, and your vibrancy. Today, we are joined by Lyon. She's a feminine coach and guide for spiritual and relationship-focused women and is the founder of New Earth Masters, an online ascension academy. She is a healer, coach, therapist, international speaker, and published author. She's also the creator of the Divine Union Academy, helping people have deeper love and soulful intimacy. Nada lives in beautiful Bali with her husband and awesome 16-year-old son. And she's also passionate about helping people rise into their beautiful and powerful mastery and become the person they were destined to become. Nada, I am so grateful to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Jessica. It's my absolute pleasure to be here with you today.
Well, I know you have, reading that out loud, it sounds truly amazing, but I would fully love if you could just share with us a little bit more about your story and how it is that you came into this incredible work that you're doing.
You know, when I was 14 years old, I was in a car sand duning in the desert. I used to live in Dubai. And the car was driving so fast that it went over a sand dune. And when it hit back on the sand, I kind of flew out of the car. Now, when I flew out of the car, everything was happening very slowly. But before I knew it, I found myself like floating in the air. And when I say floating in the air, I mean my spirit disconnected from my body. So I was there floating in the air, and it was so beautiful and peaceful where I was. I was in such a relaxed state, and everything felt so divinely perfect. But when I looked down and I saw my body, it was a whole different story. Everybody was crying around my body, screaming around my body. I didn't even associate at the time, like, I just had a near-death experience, right? I was wondering, like, why am I there and why am I here? It didn't make sense because I was in such a like blissful state. But then it started to kick in, and I chose to go back into my body. Now, when I woke up, I was already in the hospital, and the doctor said that I had like a near-death experience. And I started telling the doctors, like, listen, I had the most amazing realization. Like, everything is so beautiful. And us humans just don't know it yet. It's like we don't know how divinely perfect everything is. Now, back then, and please keep in mind, there was no Google, there was no Yahoo. I couldn't search what I experienced because we were still in the library book days. And the doctors kept telling me that, I just hit my head and, I just had like a paranormal experience. But that day changed my life forever because I realized that I was born to do something bigger than myself, which is to help people remember their own divinity. And, as a teenager, I kind of forgot about all that. And, when I turned 16, I was into guys and I just forgot about that moment. But then at the age of 21, it kicked in again. I remembered, and it became a loud calling stronger than ever. So I kind of dedicated myself to really learning and remembering and embracing my full totality. And the more I help myself, the more I have the capacity to help those that come to me. So that's really like a summary of where I started and why I do what I do today. Today, I'm very proud because I am the founder of New Earth Masters, which is the world's first online ascension academy. And we've helped thousands of people like regain their confidence, their empowerment, their spiritual alignment, feeling fulfilled and happy, which are all the feelings everybody deserves to live. But my personal favorite, like my personal passion, is helping women. Now, why is that? It's because growing up, I used to be a tomboy. I was completely disconnected from my femininity. And I thought that my womb was just about, making babies, being intimate with my partner and, bleeding every month. I did not know that my womb had secret powers. And if somebody told me back then that I'd be teaching women today about the power of their womb, I'd probably laugh because it's not something I ever thought I would do. I used to think that feminine energy was very weak and that feminine energy is something that I didn't really respect. And the only reason I didn't respect it is because I was so disconnected from my own self and my own femininity. But the universe had its way to wake me up and shake me up because that's what happens, right? If people don't listen to the calling, the universe will create a scenario where they hit rock bottom so they can rise again into their alignment. And that's kind of what happened with me. I had a few miscarriages and they were very emotionally traumatizing. They were very emotionally painful. There was like one after the other. So I decided to just, take some time off life and go to Peru and just meditate in nature. And I was asking a lot of questions like, why is this happening to my womb? Why can't I have babies? And, today I have an amazing son, but like, why was that happening? And then I heard a voice very clearly say to me, like, what else needs to happen to your womb before you start looking at your feminine energy? And that was the beginning of a whole new 2.0 version of me. That was the beginning of a whole new life. That was the beginning of me stepping into my life purpose because today I've helped thousands of women rise into their own power through unlocking the wisdom of their womb. I'm very passionate about it because it's very dear to my heart. And, it's probably the most rewarding feeling in the world when I witness a woman, metamorphosize from like a caterpillar into a butterfly, from like a piece of coal into this brilliant diamond. And every woman deserves to feel like that. Every woman deserves to feel invincible and powerful and soft. Every woman deserves to feel like she can, she deserves to have her emotions respected, to be heard, to be seen, to be acknowledged, without having to bypass herself to fit into a masculine world. And yeah, it's just the most rewarding experience I can possibly have.
Mm. Oh my goodness, I'm just smiling listening to you because it's such a beautiful message that you have for women. And I loved your story too about how you experienced this when you were at a young age and then you came back to yourself. And then you had this, kind of traumatic experience, but it sounds like you also were able to step into who you were to become fully. Now, I know you mentioned too that you've had this background in corporate, and I'd love to know a little bit about that, just in the sense of, where were you feeling or how did you feel as a woman in corporate and now compared contrasting to the woman that you are now?
Yeah, I used to live in Dubai. And for those, listening that know Dubai, Dubai is a full-on corporate world, right? Like everybody that's there is there to work. Like the only other people that are there are the children that don't work and they go to school. It is a very, very corporate life. And I used to work for real estate. And within the real estate, there was a shopping mall, one of the biggest malls actually, that I was handling its marketing. So I was the marketing director of a real estate company and its shopping mall. And it was hectic. It was busy. I had so many clients. I had so many meetings. The thing is, I was very driven. I wanted to get to the top. And I didn't realize that my drive, I used to think that I was very assertive, like most corporate women, that I was just assertive and I had big dreams. I still have big dreams, but when I look back at my corporate life, I realized that I wasn't assertive. I was frustrated. I was angry from the inside. And I used my assertiveness to get things done and to move forward in the corporate world. But when I looked around me, my life wasn't happy. When I got home, I was so empty. I would emotionally eat all the time, stuff my face with chocolate. When I would look at my partner, we're always trying to fix our relationship. There was no harmony. There was nothing to talk about. There was no depth. There was no intimacy. I was lonely. When I look at my circle of friends, all our conversations were a bit shallow. Like there was nothing soulful about my reality. Now, it wasn't because I was in the corporate world. Like I even though I'm a spiritual coach now, I am running a business, right? I'm still in the corporate world. I just my own boss. It wasn't because I was in the corporate world. It was because I was in a masculine environment, behaving like a man, even though I'm a woman. And nobody had ever taught me how to walk the business world using my feminine energy. Usually in the corporate world, we have to fight to be heard, or we need to kind of like charm our way into things and really use our connections. Or, there's so many variables that we have to do, and all women do this. The other day, I was talking to a woman, she's like, how do we all instinctively know that if we want to get our way, all we need to do is put on our charm? Now, that's very unhealthy because that's going to keep us feeling unfulfilled. We got to know that we're worthy. Like we're worthy of receiving success. We're worthy of having a thriving career. We're worthy of having, financial abundance. We don't need to fight for it. We don't need to claim it. We don't need to claim our space in the corporate world. What we want to do is instead of showing up in our masculinity, which is always going to make us somehow, somewhere invisible. It's like a fish trying to be a dolphin, right? With the world of dolphins. Like whatever the fish does, it's never going to be a dolphin. But what if the fish becomes itself, right? So what if a woman shows up in the corporate world instead of trying to be a man or showing up in her masculinity? She shows up in her femininity. That's going to turn the whole table because she's going to be in alignment to her own power, to her own voice, to her own presence, to her own, to her own space. And when a woman is in that state, she becomes very magnetic. What does that mean? Masculine world is very electric. So it's like do, 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 do. And there's so much like, and it's just even saying it's overwhelming. But when a woman approaches her business or the corporate world from her femininity, which is her magnetism, it's more about her drawing life to her. So the deals just take place, the opportunities, the doors not open, the doors are just knocking, clients start to flow. Things become easier for every woman that is in her magnetism when she is in the corporate world. And the big bonus that comes with it is that outside the corporate world, every element of her life comes into place as well. Her relationship, every woman wants to feel cherished and appreciated and adored and, get affection from her man. Maybe even get surprised, She doesn't have to ask for it. I find that most masculine women are always telling their partners, I need you to do this. I need more of this. But that's us being very masculine. Like the more we are masculine, the more depleted we are going to be. And the more we're masculine, we're competing with the masculinity of our partners. So I found the more I softened into my femininity, and I just want to add here, when I say softened into my femininity, I don't mean weakness, because I used to think that femininity is weakness. When I softened into my femininity, which is when I embraced my magnetism, I became stronger, taller, but at the same time, I was able to kind of naturally maneuver my reality. My partner became more masculine, which then he was able to provide and protect and give me all those things I've always wanted and we always fought about, right? And I find that with all the women that I work with, like the second they take a step back from their masculinity and harmonize their feminine energy with their masculine energy, life just becomes more fulfilling.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's such a big piece that we don't really talk about or fully even acknowledge when we're in the corporate world because we are so busy trying to, sometimes as I put it, put our armor on, trying to walk into a world where we have to become somebody else and we don't recognize our own femininity within that. And would you say that, when women are assertive and they're receiving negative feedback because they're aggressive, that these are the types of things that are manifesting because we're having to portray ourselves or become essentially more masculine in this environment?
I love that you said that because it's so true. Like when us women need to become masculine to work in the corporate world, we're actually becoming more masculine than the men there, right? Now, there and it's funny when you say assertive because like women are either passive, assertive, or aggressive. They're always late, right? And I feel like when I was in the corporate world, I used to defend that. Like I'm assertive, but everyone perceived me as aggressive and controlling, right? Now, I'm just being completely honest. So when I would look at myself, like, why do people perceive that I'm being controlling and aggressive? It's because my assertiveness was coming from a masculine tone when people would see a woman in front of them. And then the approach that I had was more of like a warrior, like I'm assertive. But how about I become assertive with glamour? How about I become assertive with deliciousness? How about I become assertive with my tone? How about I become assertive with my decision making without the fight, without the flight, without needing to be diplomatic all the time? Because those are all masculine characters, right? Then what happens is a woman becomes more joyful. She becomes more playful, which in return, nobody starts to notice or pick on her assertiveness because she's no longer in her masculine energy. And people start to notice how she actually transforms the quality of the energy of every single meeting. So she'll be called. We want her in the meeting. We want her on the deal. We want her to be, our account manager or whatever it may be, because her energy, how she shows up, is received very differently when she is in her femininity. Does that make sense?
I think that makes perfect sense. I've never really heard it fully explained that way, but I think that it's really embracing how we can authentically show up as women in these different environments without trying to become like the examples that we've seen growing up, seen in our lives, and really maybe even changing some of that conversation or that dialogue, whether that's in our mind or really, realistic in what's happening. I know that you've been doing, work with women and you've been running your business for some time and you run it with your husband. So how is that, how does that work or play into it when you're running a business alongside your partner?
It's very interesting because even though we live together, we work together, we barely see each other outside our couple time. My husband is the CEO of the company, and I'm the CMO. So I handle all the marketing, I handle all the sales, where he handles all the direction, the vision, and everything to do with like legal finances and stuff like that. So the beautiful part about it is because our relationship is so harmonized, um, our work relationship is harmonized too. We prioritize our marriage. And the more we prioritize our marriage, we realize that we show up at work with more enthusiasm, with more joy, with more respect for one another and respect for each other's decision making. And, we both have the same vision of where we want to go and how we want to help people and make an impact. So we get very excited with what we want to do. Mind you, that we manage a big group of people too. We have a lot of support, we have a lot of help. And yeah, like working together, it's very pleasurable. I would say, of course, there are times where, we disagree. There are times where, we don't see eye to eye when it comes to different projects or different, retreats that we're hosting or whatever it may be. But because our marriage is very solid and our communication is a very healthy, open channel where we both feel, we're seen and heard, and we both really respect what the other person is saying. Whenever we have a difference, it doesn't turn into like chaos. it turns into an opportunity for us to look at more gaps and resolve these gaps. So then, we can thrive even further together. With one another. It sounds very ideal, but it did take a lot of work for us to get here. Nobody teaches us how to be in a healthy relationship. Like like they should teach us the stuff in school, like grade 1, right? What do you do with your partner? But because nobody teaches us this, of course, we had to learn, we had to grow, we had to refine ourselves. I mean, we're both certified relationship coaches, we're sex coaches, we're communication coaches. So we're both very educated in this area. So it really adds a lot of value, and it helps us maneuver different things, not just work, but also our family and our life plans, etc.
I think that's such an important thing to bring up in the sense that, and even touching on what you were saying earlier, in the sense that I think as women, when we're moving up in our careers, quite often it's this assumption that either we're going to have a partner who's going to get on board, or we have to charge ahead on our own. And there's never really this idea that we can have a fulfilling relationship, in unison, and where we actually put value and place importance on the relationship over our career, even to a certain extent. So I know that you're working in this business together. He's the CEO, you're the CMO, but you also work with a lot of couples as well to maybe help them. So can you share what some of that work looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. And before I share that, I want to just add on to what you were saying. Like, what you're saying is so important because it is true. Like, women, we're always wondering if our partner will step up, or if our partner will show up, or if our partner will meet us, etc. But what are we really saying there, right? We're saying we want a man that can lead. We're saying we want a man that can be more masculine than our own masculinity. Because when we feel that our man is stronger in his presence than we are, then what happens? We feel safe. We feel like we can rely on him, not physically, because women are very good decision makers. And women are the type, like, naturally, it's our natural state. Like when a project happens, or a negative situation happens, women are very visionary. Like they're already 2 steps ahead. They already planned it out. And men are more linear, right? So when a woman is saying, like, I want a man to step up, she's saying, I want you to be my fierce warrior so I can feel safe and rely on you emotionally. And when he does that, and every man has the capability to do that. Like, this isn't like, also for the selected few. Every man can rise into his leadership. When he does that, what happens is the whole dynamic of the relationship changes. And to be very honest with you, this is probably one of the biggest problems that relationships come to us with. The biggest problem is the woman doesn't feel like she can be a woman, and she's the one making all the decisions, and she's the one leading the relationship. And he doesn't feel that he's respected in his masculinity and all of that. But when we dissect it, right? Like, if you have a garden, and the fruits are rotting, or the flowers are wilting, you're not going to go and look at the petals. You want to look at the soil. You want to see the fertilizer. You want to look at the quality of the water, like what's really happening deep down inside. So when we dissect things, what we realize is the biggest problem is the imbalance of masculine and feminine energies. You see, the thing is, men are kind of like lions. They're very fierce, they're very wild, and they are kings of the reality. However, they've been tamed. That's the only word I can use to describe it. They've kind of been tamed. And it's not their fault that they've been tamed. A lot of fathers didn't know how to show their sons how to be men, right? Like real, like authentic, powerful men. And it's not the father's fault. It goes back generation after generation. And maybe the mother, over nourishes and nurtures the man. So he doesn't feel that, he needs to make an effort with his woman. But and also the other side applies too. Like a lot of women, their mothers didn't teach them how to be feminine. And they just had to go into school and figure things out on their own. And everything is designed very masculine, like school, university, college, all of that. So when a couple gets together, what they're doing is they're either imitating on a subconscious level what they saw their parents do, what they watched happen in movies, what they truly want, but their nervous system isn't regulated to have that. So what happens is the woman starts to want more. And of course she wants more because a woman wants to be held. She wants to feel like she's catered to. The most precious thing a man can do for a woman is give her his presence, right? Like when she's listening, listen to her emotions and not her words. When she's complaining about something, don't try to fix it. Just hold her and let her know she's loved. So there's so many things that create an imbalance in a masculine and feminine dynamic in a relationship because nobody shows us how to do that. So when couples come to us, this is really the biggest problem. And what we realize is that what it happens is that it creates another problem,
Hmm.
which is disrespect. Because when a man does not respect a woman's emotions and always like bypasses her or belittles her emotions or kind of like undermines how she's feeling, the wild woman starts to wake up, and that's when women start to become very loud and they start to become very demanding and they start to unleash themselves on their man, if I was to say that now. And then the man will turn around and be like, oh my god, you're nuts, look at how you're behaving. The thing is, women need a lot of masculine nourishment from their partners so they can feel safe. And when they feel safe, they're ready to give their partner everything without feeling like it's a burden. Most women that we work with feel like their husbands are burdens, like they do all the work and there is no gratification. So it's so important to rebuild that respect because if a woman disrespects a man, she can't really make love to him and appreciate him the way he deserves to be appreciated. And she won't really feel her sensuality while they are making love. And that is a very big part of relationships. So it goes down to three things. It goes down to like the foundation of respect, which brings the friendship, the loyalty, and the communication. So important. The way we speak to one another is key to either how the relationship will grow or how it will fall apart. But then the second part is, harmonizing the masculine and the feminine roles, men waking up their masculine leadership, their alignment, their power, their charisma, and women softening into their femininity so they can start trusting his leadership and they can start nourishing his soul and receiving that nourishment into their souls and feeling like queens of their world instead of like hustling and bustling and being the mother of the partner, if that makes sense. But then thirdly is having like soulful intimacy with their beloved and no longer just, it's a thing that they do. Like there's more of a deeper connection. Women thrive on that deeper connection, that romance, the beautiful words, the affection, the slow pace, the softness. Like when women receive that, like their whole world transforms, right? It's like if you're eating off the floor or if you're having like the best gourmet caviar, it's a whole different world, right? So you wanna put them all together. That's really what we help couples do. So like really bring all three into alignment.
I think this is such an important conversation to have because you're right. I don't think that we are taught how we can fully step into these different roles without society, without feeling judgment to a certain extent, and how we embrace this in a different way without it feeling like we're being weak or someone's, being overly masculine or overly strong. So I know that you work with couples quite often. How do you work with individuals to discover this for themselves as well?
So if we were to work with individuals, what usually happens, I mean, we're very limited with how many one-on-one clients we take. But we do have a lot of online courses that, people can watch at their own pace. For individuals, it would be one or the other. either they join our online course or they do both. Like usually for couples, they are doing coaching with us, but they also have a curriculum called the Divine Union Academy because there's so much to share about this topic. But when it comes to individuals, we have a course specifically for women called the Oracle, and we have a course specifically for men called the Sacred Warrior. And what happens, what we teach in these courses is we teach women how to feel strong in their femininity, embrace their womb wisdom, and realign their whole life. So, like their relationship, their work, their family, every part of their life into their feminine flow. And then the sacred warrior does the opposite. It teaches men to let go of that tameness, like society has tamed men. Women don't want a tamed man. Women want a man that can protect them with their life, right? So that course teaches men how to wake up their leadership, their alignment, their power, and how to become an aligned man in a relationship, how to show up in masculinity so the woman can feel safe and secure and held and all these amazing things. So if people want to, if like what happens most of the time is that individuals will buy these courses and they'll watch them and then they'll be part of like our VIP group, where we have a lot of like open Q&A every week. But then there are the selected few, and we only take like selected few because of time wise, that do want to do like personal mentorships with us. And then we go much deeper, and it depends on the case, and it becomes much more customized. But obviously, the price goes up as well. So that's really how we help people. So these courses have so many people have taken them, and the feedback we get is incredible. And again, like I said in the beginning, like it's one of our biggest passions, helping couples, people in general, just master themselves, because nobody is small. Everybody is grand, and everybody deserves to live a grand life. Everybody is divine, and everybody deserves to experience their divinity. The only thing that's stopping people from living their grandness, whether a woman within herself, a man within himself, a couple within their relationship, or any other part of life, is because they kind of got limited somewhere, somehow in their childhood, through trauma, something has happened, where they kind of lost hope and they kind of lost direction of who they are and who they were destined to be. So this is our aim. Our aim is to remind people that they can have it all. And you know what? They should have it all. Like, why would anyone settle? You can see how passionate I am. Like, why would anyone settle if they can't have the grandest life possible? And the thing is, I just want to add, sometimes I use very big words, right? Like mastery, fulfillment. And a lot of people tell me, oh, Neda, it's so easy for you to say that because you're there. It's like, hold on, hold on, hold on. I just want to remind people, like, I almost died, right? I was sexually molested as a child. I left home at the age of 14. Like, I've had a very rough childhood. It wasn't easy flowing. I had nobody showing me the way. And that's why I know, like, if I can do it, like, everybody can do it, right? Like, I'm no different than anybody else. And all my clients and my students, like, they're no different than anybody else. But the only difference that they have is the desire. Like, they want to give themselves the best. A lot of people live in a world of conversation, right? Like, I want to go to the gym. I want to lose weight. I want to become more time efficient. There's a lot of conversation, but there's a selected few that are action takers, right? And that will stop at nothing. So if a person is an action taker, like, of course they'll get there.
Well, what I love that you were saying too is that we all have this divinity, this grandness. And I think that we forget that so often, especially when we are in this kind of fight or flight on a constant basis, trying to fight for our careers and then fight for our marriages and then fight for who we are as individuals. And it just feels so exhausting and frustrating so often. And so everything that you're saying is the opposite of that.
You
And
know why? Like, when a woman is fighting. And I used to be a fighter, right? Like I used to be a fighter, like for everything. It was exhausting. The thing is, when a woman is disconnected from her feminine energy, she's like a fish that's outside water. But she just got used to it because she doesn't know what it's like to be back in the water, right? Nobody taught us how to take care of our femininity or embrace our womb energy. So if a fish is outside water, what's it doing? It's fighting. It's fighting to survive, right? And that's what women are doing. They're fighting to survive, whether to keep their marriage afloat or to keep their business afloat or to bring in clients. That's all survival mode. But we don't have, we can just jump back in the water and flow, right? So when a woman transitions back into her feminine energy, there is nothing to fight. There's actually more life to receive. It's a whole different ball game. But a lot of women don't know this, just like I didn't know this. Like if I was to wear glasses right now that have the yellow shade, I actually have them here because I am a biohacker. Okay. I don't know if you're into biohacking. I'm obsessed with biohacking. So if I was to wear these glasses, these block the blue lights, right? These are red shades. I'm literally gonna see everything as red. And if I was born with these and I have them on my whole life, you told me, wait a minute, there are other colors. Like, what are you talking about? It's all red. But if I take them off, I'm like, oh my God, there's white and blue and green and orange. There's a whole different spectrum waiting for me if I get out of my comfort zone of what I know, right? So that's really it. So for women, because I know what it's like to reject my femininity, I like to emphasize on this because we're scared. Like, what if we do go into our feminine, but then everything falls apart? Why would it fall apart, right? If you're in your natural state. In our natural state, everything thrives.
And I think it sounds, so much of it is based on trust of others, trust of ourselves. And so would you say that with your partner, then it's really how you work together so that you can create that natural flow and that trust amongst each other?
You know, when a person is very resentful and a person is very angry, right? And they go to therapy, the therapist doesn't tell them to, go bring every single person that has upset them so they can heal their resentment. They got to heal their resentment within themselves because at the end of the day, the resentment is poison to them. And what needs to happen is the energy, it's not physical, the energy of resentment needs to transform first through forgiveness and then through compassion. And then it becomes acceptance. And then a person can live in a state of joy again, right? So when a woman is feeling that like the world outside her, right? People aren't listening. There's no communication. She's not feeling heard. They all go under the same umbrella. So instead of going to fix everything outside her, when she starts to reclaim the power of her cervix, this is very important. When she starts to remember, first of all, because most of us walk around not even knowing we have a cervix, right? Imagine walking around thinking that you don't have ears. They're right there and they're very valuable. So a woman's cervix carries a lot of energy. And when a woman reclaims the power of her cervix, she no longer needs to go outside herself asking, begging, pleading, or fighting to be heard, respected, seen, acknowledged. It starts to happen naturally because she's evolved as a woman. She's changed as a woman. Like our external world is a literal mirror. It's a reflection. Like if I put on red lipstick now and I went to the mirror, I'm going to see red lipstick on that mirror. There's no other option. It's not going to turn blue. So the world is an absolute reflection. The woman's world, a woman's world, is an absolute reflection of the energy and the quality of her womb. It's really that simple. Now, what a woman needs to do is awaken that. She wants to clear her womb from all stagnant energy, especially if she's been promiscuous and she's had a lot of partners and stuff, or abortions or miscarriage. That's all stagnant energy, right? So important she clears her womb. Imagine walking to a house that has cobwebs and dust everywhere. because we don't take care of our wombs. Like nobody teaches us this. The womb state is going to be like that. It's going to be cobwebs and dust everywhere. So the first thing is she got to clear her womb. The second thing is she got to start accepting her femininity. Us women, we walk around with so much self-rejection. Like we reject our bodies, we reject, the way our yoni looks, our vagina looks. There's so much self-rejection. It's like a flower, it's like a rose hating itself when it's actually so beautiful. So so first we got to clear our wounds, but then we got to start embracing our fullness. And then, there's so much that goes into it, but then you also need to clear or heal your feminine wounds. Women have a lot of competition with one another. There's a lot of envy. There's a lot of jealousy. There's a lot of, what's it called? Like there's a lot of gossiping. There's a lot of tainted feminine energy in the world. But it all stems within a woman, within herself. Remember, the world is your mirror. So, once you go through that clearing phase, then your womb is gonna be open. Like you cleared out the weeds and now the flowers can grow, the butterflies can come, the sun can shine, and that's gonna reflect in her world. Trusting your partner won't be that difficult because the more a woman softens, you have to understand everything is energy. In a relationship, the man is the leader of the relationship. But the woman is the flavor of the relationship. So imagine you get frozen yogurt. The container of the yogurt, the way it looks, the spoon, like the way it's held that it's not going to fall in your lap, like that's the masculine energy. But then the quality of the yogurt, the taste, the deliciousness, that's the feminine energy. So if a woman is being the container, then there's no space for the man to be the container. But if she goes to her femininity and she starts reshaping the quality of what she brings into the relationship. And a woman's essence is joyful. When she's in her womb, she becomes very joyful. Then naturally what happens is her partner will shift into his natural state, which is very masculine. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. I think that I haven't heard it described that way, but I think that really sheds light on the differences and how they complement each other when we start to accept and acknowledge what it is that we bring to the table uniquely as well.
Yeah, and every woman is so unique in her frequency, with her energy, with who she is as a woman, what she has to offer. And every woman is so beautiful. And, there's so much magic within a woman. So, yeah, it's such a beautiful topic.
Mm-hmm. Well, for those who are looking to take a course, work with you, and as a couple, what's the best way that they can get in touch with you?
So, people can find me on newearthmasters.com. That's the website. I also have New Earth Masters on Instagram and on YouTube. Those are really the best ways. And then when you go to my website, which is newearthmasters.com, there's, if you go to the contact us section, you'll have our email, you'll have our, you can text us or whatever mode works.
Well, we'll definitely put everything within the show notes so that it's easily accessible and if people can reach out to you because the work that you're doing is so important and how it's really healing the divide that I think that we're feeling on such a regular basis. And I know when I'm working with women in corporate, oftentimes these are the types of, not expressed in the same way, but these are the types of things that are coming up when the feedback that they're receiving is that they are aggressive or that they're overly assertive or that there's other issues that are starting to happen within their lives and they're struggling to understand how they can make a shift for themselves in a greater way.
Yeah, and it's a big topic and it's a very important topic. And, I feel like the only reason a woman is perceived that way is really because of her fight energy. She doesn't have to fight. She can say everything she wants to say. But that's the thing, right, with women. Like one part of us is trained to be the good girl. We have to do the right thing and say the right thing and be the good girl all the time. But then we have these dreams and, we're in our masculine energy and then we're trying to like make everything happen. So there's so much inner conflict. You see what I mean? And the beautiful part about everything I just said, And again, this is all from my own personal story and the people that I've helped, right? Is that when it doesn't take time, like when we do therapy and subconscious work and stuff like that, it does take a lot of time because it's layer after layer. But like I said, like if you have a garden that's really out of shape, you can go and polish every apple and fix every petal and the flowers, and you can do that. But if you fix the fertilizer, everything's going to happen naturally. You see what I mean? So, Jessica, I want to thank you as well for hosting me and hosting this podcast. Sharing my message, your message, everybody's message, is such a beautiful thing. So, I really respect the work that you do as well.
Oh, no. Well, thank you. It's my pleasure to have you on. And I just love this conversation. I think I could sit in it forever. And really, there are layers to it. But I think it's so important that we think about this as women too, because I think we are really becoming so accustomed, especially in today's modern society, of really taking on this overly masculine approach and really ignoring the feminine aspects of ourselves, and then not knowing how do we step into our femininity in a greater way.
Yeah, and femininity doesn't have to mean submissive. Like that's the definition we're taught, or that it's secondary or whatever. Femininity is leadership. It's true leadership. And one of the best things that I hear from, the people that take the Oracle, which is my course specifically about femininity, is this. I hear this all the time. It's like, now I know how to raise my daughter. And that is like, oh my God, it gets me every single time. It's like, now I know how to raise my daughter. Now I know how to raise my son. It's like, wow, okay, job done, right? Because if we can help the next generation before they just go into self-development, that's perfect.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's such a beautiful testament. And I was thinking about that as you were speaking earlier with my baby. Like, this is different because it's fresh and we don't really talk about it in this context enough.
Mm.
So thank you so much for coming on today and just sharing your wisdom with us. I think this is going to it's very thought-provoking, and I think excellent information for us as we can carry this into our lives and really start thinking differently about how we show up and really what it is that we want to embrace within our lives as well.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here, Jessica. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Please make sure to join us next week when we have another episode coming out. And until then, remember to stay authentic and keep shining. Thank you for tuning in to the Hello You Show. It's been a pleasure to have you with us on this journey today. If you found value in our conversation and want to support the show, please take a moment to like, follow, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd also deeply appreciate it if you could leave us a review. Your feedback not only helps us grow, but also enables others seeking inspiration and authenticity to discover our community. Until next time, keep embracing your story with purpose.